revisiting Shaun King's comment about engaging your audience, what do you do when you have a constant commenter who is both bringing traffic in and driving people away?
If I understand you correctly, I block a lot of people, and you know, I wish that it wasn't at that point. If it's a friend or family member who's being peacefully disagreeable, then that's one thing. If it's someone who's even if it's a stranger or someone that you've built an online connection with who's being reasonable but they disagree with you, that's fine. But when people are deliberately harassing you or other people connected to you, you have no responsibility to keep that open. It's a privilege that they have access to your information, and at the point in which it doesn't even have to get to the level of a troll or a scam or whatever, but at the point in which someone is deliberately trying to irritate or cause a problem, you have no responsibility to change their mind or to persuade them. You could either leave them there and ignore them, but I do tend to block those folks.
Hi, my name is Ann Batiza. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, also was at the Capitol in Madison. But I really want to address Guccifer 2.0.
Yeah.
And I think that the silence is partly because of what you said, but I think it's also because it included what was labeled secret document titled Promises and Proposals, National Security and Foreign Policy. And that, I just saw 6 hours ago, Business Insider did a thing on Guccifer 2.0, and they left that out. And I've not seen the secret doc appear in any mainstream media. And I think that really this is a hashtag DNC/state hack. And I think that it negates Hillary's narrative that she is this responsible person and that there was no hack of the State Department server.
Okay.
And so I think that's where this comes from.
Anyone, Shaun, anyone?
Well, I know the document that you're talking about, and I saw some really smart people debating exactly where that document came from, because that was on the DNC servers. If it really did come from the DNC servers, if anybody injected it onto that, or you're talking about? I know the document that you're talking about.
He didn't say he got it from the DNC server. He said, and I mean.
Wait, let me pause right there. The point is that.
He said he got it from Hillary's PC.
We don't. Yeah. Here's right. Here's yeah. What I am saying is that their silence leads us to have to speculate, and so we don't really know. And my hope is that enough of us will continue to say, well, can you validate the authenticity of any, because they were quick to validate the authenticity that someone had gotten a Donald Trump document. And they did it. I mean, they responded to it within hours, but they went completely silent when it appeared that because they were financial and donor records that were released, they said that didn't happen. And but they haven't verified whether it's true or not. I'm just making the assumption that it's true.
All right, we could continue this discussion right after. I want to get a question in the back at the, we have the banner person over here. All right, and then we may have to wind up soon. Okay. Oh, a spokesperson for the group that's got the banner. Good. All right, but let's start there and then go there.
Hi, my name is Mark. I'm from Oklahoma. I spent 11 years in media and got out when it got too corporate. What I would like to hear from some panelists that you kind of hinted at, none of us have to be superstars or air personalities, but if every single person attending this conference used Facebook Go Live to speak about their passions, we could get the word out to the world faster.
accept that as a comment?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
it's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
great idea.
endorsing that as a comment. No response needed because we're unanimous here. All right, over there.
Hi, I'm Yvette Carnell from BreakingBrown.com and YourBlackWorld.net. And I wanna take a moment just to I'm happy I heard somebody say something about sustainable journalism, because I want to push back against an idea that I'm hearing here, that anybody can be a citizen journalist. As a person who does this every day, I don't think that's true. And I think what you have to realize is that journalism is supposed to be a craft. It's supposed to be something that feeds you. Okay, so when I look at this panel, I remember when Shaun was doing this, like Shaun in the City back in Atlanta, long time ago. This has been a long time ago. And now he's with the Daily News. I look at Fang and it was, The Intercept does great work, but they had the founder of eBay to kind of come in there and fund that company. So when I bring this back, I'm bringing this back to black media. And if you ask me, you see ad revenues going down at places like BuzzFeed. So we're not doing well. And so if you are asking me, and if I'm thinking about this like I need to be thinking about this, what you have to ask yourselves too is why black media matters. And if you want to ask that, the answer to that question is, look at the South, how black people voted, and look at how they didn't vote for Bernie. And because there's nobody, black media isn't, what I'm trying to get to happen here is for the left to support black media so that we can talk to black voters and have that conversation that I know you can't have. And so what we have to do in terms of what we're doing, because we're out here and we're not really making any money and we need support. I'm not talking about just financial support. I'm talking about passing around articles, passing around YouTubes, because it helps you too. Because, one of the things that happened is that a lot of people were like, well, you're being condescending to black people. You can't criticize the black community. You can't say anything to the black community. Maybe you can't. But I can have that conversation. We can have that conversation. So I think what needs to happen is we have to talk about sustainable journalism, and we have to talk about support of not just media. We have to talk about support of black media. So that's a conversation that I want to have, and I thank you.
Thank you for that. I just want to say, I think it's really important for people to get the news out, for people to do citizen journalism, whatever. I absolutely think that journalism is a job, it's work, it's hard, it takes skills, it takes training, it takes building trust, it takes all of those things. And I think we should all actually think about, as we were saying, supporting candidates. We should also, I would love everybody in this room to pledge to support your local independent media, support black media, support Latino media, support media in different languages, support the media that is in your community, that is actually telling the stories.
They've told me that we have to wind up in about 3 minutes. When we do leave, let's take that slogan with us, Black Media Matters.
I just have
one last comment or question.
My question is, can you talk about the role of polling in the media and in independent media? Because I feel like that has absolutely dominated the conversation in this election. I'm 40. I've never been polled. Who's getting polled? And I please talk about it. And does it have a role to play in independent media?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, very
That's a good
little.
one.
I worked in the cable news channels, all of them. Polling and horse racing and who's up and who's down and having all the white male pundits talk about it and maybe one African American. It's all an excuse not to discuss politics.
Yeah.
They're not discussing politics or policy, and so they have to do horse racing as a way of avoiding the policy issues that were particularly thorny this year because Bernie was putting real progressive policy issues on the table. My advice for media that want to cover a horse race is get out of the politics page and go to the sports page where there's horse race and there's sporting. But they've always been obsessed. It's not a new thing. They've always been obsessed with it as a way of avoiding covering politics or policy. is they just cover the horse race, who's up, who's down.
Can I just make one
comment?
comment?
Sarah.
I agree with all that, and there's two types of polls I think are really important that independent media should pay attention to. One is exit polling, because we really need to understand the voter suppression stuff much better.
Jeff?
The other is that there's some really substantive kind of polling that people like the Pew Research Center do, and I don't think that gets reported enough. I think we need to understand much better. For example, there was something like 58%, 60% of people who were supporting single-payer health care when the Democrats and the Republicans were refusing to talk about it. And the fact that 58% of Americans were supporting it, even though it wasn't part of that political agenda, I think was really an important undertold story.
Yeah.
Great point. All right, let's thank our panelists. Lee Fang. We've got to have one short comment. It's got to be short. We're not even going to respond, but yeah.
I just had a quick question for you, Jeff, regarding your statement about the age under 35 and under group and their relationship to non-traditional media. How exclusive or inclusive is that data regarding race and socioeconomic demographically?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I refer to these polls, they're showing people under 35 more sympathetic to socialism versus capitalism. I've seen some of them that break it down, and it's pretty universal. Yeah. That people under 35 are the most, I don't think it matters, black community, white community, people under 35 are the most progressive age demographic, period. I've never seen a poll that had any contrary data. Anyone?
Polls in general, speaking of bringing these last two things together, tend to not be very, we like to say, intersectional. So they will poll by age and then by race and separate those as if like they don't overlap and things like that. So yeah, so you end up with some bad numbers a lot of the time that don't really tell the whole story.
All right. Right. I wouldn't trust. All right, let's thank Lee Fang, Sarah Van Gelder, Sarah Jaffe, and Shaun King.